Give us each day our daily bread. In the wilderness, the Hebrews were desperate for bread. Exodus 16 records their cry. If only we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Egypt, where we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this entire assembly with starvation. They would rather have died in Egypt than starve in Yahweh's wilderness. Yahweh's response to the bread crisis was manna, but it came with a compliance test built into the schedule. In Exodus 16, it reads, I am going to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people will go out and gather the amount for each day so that I may test them. Everything is a test. Yahweh calls the manna bread from heaven, but Jesus will later correct that. In John 6, Jesus said, It is not Moses who has given you the bread from heaven, but my Father is giving you the true bread from heaven. The manna was not bread. It was 6 days of provision with a trap on the 7th. It rotted if you tried to store it, and the whole system was designed to test compliance. When Jesus teaches his disciples to ask for daily bread, he means actual bread from the Father, every day, with no trap, no Sabbath test, and no double portion logistics on Fridays. You just ask Abba, and you receive. The manna was not bread.
Exodus 16, 1 through 3. On the 15th day of the 2nd month after they had left the land of Egypt, the whole congregation of Israel sent out from Elim and came to the desert of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. And there in the desert the whole congregation of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. If only we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, they said. There we besat by pots of meat and ate our fill of bread. But you have brought us into this desert to starve this whole assembly to death.
Where is it? Okay. You seen this? Did you see this? New diet, meat for 40 days. Doesn't taste good. Looks like shit. Bon ben, je vais te montrer c'est quoi ma nouvelle diète. Ça a l'air que je vais manger ça pendant un bout. J'aime pas trop l'odeur, mais c'est de la nourriture d'homme. Fait qu'il va falloir que je fasse un effort. Puis il a l'air d'en avoir pas mal, mais en fait j'ai une chaudière de ça à manger. Would you eat this? This is what my friend Samuel brought to me before he decided to not speak with me anymore. And that's what I was left with. And I ate this again for dinner. And it really is making my groaning really loud from this difficulty to digest. I mean, what? When Jesus is saying to the Father, if it were possible, get this cup out of, I don't want to drink that cup. Well, I don't want to eat that shit. And it seems that that's what I need. I had to go through. I had to eat that because that's what my friend Samuel brought to me. And since I believe and I have faith, then I decided, okay, well, I guess that I got to suffer and eat it. And I don't want to. And who's forcing me to do it?
And who's forcing you to do it? I mean, you may not see it the way I do right now, Jonathan, but the way I'm looking at it, Moses and Yahweh are the ones that would be forcing you to eat that shit. Because you do know that you're painting exactly what happened in the wilderness in Exodus, don't you? When Moses instructed everybody on how to collect some strange ass food that nobody even knew what it was. And that's exactly why they called it manna. Because basically, manna literally means, what is it? Exodus 16:15. When the Israelites saw it, they asked one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. So Moses told them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat." So for your sidekick Samuel to be serving up all this slop that you don't even want to eat, because just like the manna, you had no idea what the hell it even was.
Would you eat this? This is what my friend Samuel brought to me before he decided to not speak with me anymore. And that's what I was left with.
But what you do know for sure is that it absolutely tastes like shit, and you can't believe that you're stuck like some unappreciated animal who's forced to eat slop.
Well, I don't want to eat that shit. And it seems that that's what I need. I had to go through. I had to eat that because that's what my friend Samuel brought to me.
And that's what cracks me up, Jonathan. When I hear people talking about how the people in the wilderness that Yahweh killed, all because they were starting to complain that they wanted something else to eat besides a big bowl of crap, that nobody could even figure out what it was.
Meat for 40 days. Doesn't taste good. Looks like shit.
But I think I can tell you this much, Jonathan, at least as far as I can see, is that if you're whining this bad already over having to eat this harvestful bounty in which was set before you by Samuel, who I believe is the newly discovered Moses in the flesh who was sent here to feed you absolute shit for 40 years, to make sure that you're going to be able to be loyal to Yahweh. Deuteronomy 8:2. Remember that these 40 years the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness, so that he might humble you and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commandments.
He, Yahweh, humbled you by letting you go hungry, testing you. Same word, Greek word. Greek word is pyrazo, by the way. We talked about it last week. Testing you to know what was in your heart. Why, you couldn't tell? Oh, you just let something slip, huh? Yeah, he does this a lot, actually, if you just pay attention to what Yahweh says. Well, he's omnipresent, he's omniscient, he's all these incredible things. Might want to go and listen to how he talks. You see that here? Why would you need to test somebody? Don't you already know what's in their hearts? Hello? Huh? He, Yahweh, humbled you by letting you go hungry, testing you to know what was in your heart. You have to starve someone to find out what's in their heart? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yahweh testing people is all over the record. Abraham and Isaac, the bitter water at Merah, the manna, Sinai, the remaining nations and Canaan, Hezekiah. Nearly every test involves deprivation, suffering, or the threat of death. This is not a vague spiritual request, this Lord's Prayer. It is a prayer asking Abba not to deliver them into Yahweh's testing system. And the one who leads people into testing has a name. He identified himself at Sinai.
And I ate this again for dinner, and it really is making my groaning really loud from this difficulty to digest.
Wow, Jonathan, like I said, that's a lot of moaning and groaning about, the food that's being given to you. I don't think Yahweh would appreciate it.
Well, I don't want to eat that shit. And it seems that that's what I need. I had to go through. I had to eat that because that's what my friend Samuel brought to me.
And you're not even, 40 days into whatever you and Samuel were up to, but try doing it for 40 years.
Then I decided, okay, well, I guess that I got to suffer and eat it. And I don't want to. And who's forcing me to do it?
And what does Yahweh do with people who complain a lot? So it says, I typed in there, it goes, did the Lord kill people in the Exodus for grumbling about food and water? Yes, the Lord killed thousands of Israelites for grumbling about food and water, though these lethal punishments occurred later in the journey in the book of Numbers rather than the initial stops in Exodus. Like that really matters. They were all killed for grumbling about food and water, or lack thereof. During the initial phase of the book of Exodus, God responded to their complaints with miracles, manna, quail, and water from rocks. However, as the grumbling turned into ongoing rebellion and rejection of God's provision, severe judgments followed.
And look at the being it describes. Numbers 11 records what happens when Yahweh hears his people complaining about being starved to death, by the way. Now the people complained about their hardship in the hearing of Yahweh. Oh, don't do that. Wait, he can hear you? Wait, you can be outside of his hearing? Oh, things are just getting stranger and stranger in this study. I thought Yahweh was omniscient. I thought he knew everything. You can speak outside of the hearing of Yahweh? Oh, Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of Yahweh. Hardships? Who gave them those hardships? Sorry, I keep going down little rabbit holes here. The hardships that he led them into? The one he lied to them about? Hey, I'm going to take you to a land flowing with milk and honey, a wonderful place, better than this. Let's get you out of the slavery here in Egypt, and I'm going to set you free, and it's all going to be amazing. No, sorry. Actually, I need to raise up an army to steal, kill, and destroy, so let's start a massive eugenics experiment where we wipe you all out and it's just survival of the fittest. Hey, it's the Hunger Games in real life.
Disasters that are coming, the military, the government knows about them, and there's a lot of safe areas.
30 years is about the time gap that they estimated would be long enough for people to forget.
Yeah. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of Yahweh, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from Yahweh burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. That is the being Jesus teaches his disciples to pray for deliverance from. The prayer is addressed to Abba, asking for rescue from the evil one. Deliver us not by Yahweh, but from him.
Would you eat this? This is what my friend Samuel brought to me before he decided to not speak with me anymore, and that's what I was left with.
The specific instances where people died due to complaining about food and water include the plague of the quail. The complaint in Numbers 11, 4 through 6. The people wept and expressed disgust for the daily manna, demanding meat. We remembered the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost, but now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna.
Doesn't taste good. Looks like shit.
Jesus says, give us each day our daily bread. But Yahweh deprived them of bread. 40 years in the desert. It's amazing how many Christians respond when I say this with, nuh-uh. 40 years in the desert, how many times did Yahweh give them bread? Most Christians think like all the time? No, never. And they'll go, No, it can't be never. Of course they got bread. No, they got manna. Yeah, they never got bread. Not one single day. Not one single time. Bread. It's such a basic thing. No bread. Exodus 16 says, you have brought us into this wilderness to kill us with starvation. They knew. This was Exodus 16 here. This is 6 weeks after they left Egypt. They know what's going on. 6 weeks into a 40-year journey. People were working it out.
30 years is about the time gap that they estimated would be long enough for people to forget.
Guess who was first to die? The people working it out. Wonder why I live in a van. Jesus said, forgive us our sins. But Yahweh says, no, hold sin against them. Whoever has sinned against me, I will wipe out of my book. Jesus says, we also forgive everyone who sins against us. Yahweh teaches retribution. You must not show pity. A life for a life, an eye for an eye. Jesus says, do not lead us into a time of testing. Yahweh led them into a time of testing. And he said it. Deuteronomy 8, he humbled you, testing you to know what was in your heart. Jesus says, deliver us from the evil one. Yahweh acts with unrelenting malice. Fire from Yahweh burned among them. Of course, just one of the instances where Yahweh killed many, many people.
And for 40 years, he never gave them real bread. Not even the spiritual bread, but just the physical, real bread. You don't think that God could have done that? But no, he didn't. What was the judgment that God sent for them complaining? God sent a massive flock of quail, but his anger was kindled by their greed and rejection of his provision. Numbers 11:33 states, while the meat was still between their teeth, and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. The place that was named Kilbroth, Hatavana, or whatever that is, meaning graves of craving, because they buried the people who craved other food. Oh my. So because they craved something besides this manna that nobody had ever seen or tasted before, because they had that craving, the Lord killed them. So you'd be dead already, Jonathan. How do you feel about that in your Lord?
Well, I don't want to eat that shit. And it seems that that's what I need. I had to go through. I had to eat that because that's what my friend Samuel brought to me.
The second one is the fiery serpents. The complaint in Numbers 21:4-5. As they traveled around Edom, the people grew impatient and spoke against God and Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food.
Well, I don't want to eat that shit.
But what was the judgment? In response to this specific complaint about food and water, Numbers 21:6 records, then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The plague only stopped after Moses made a bronze snake on a pole for the survivors to look at and be healed.
He was bringing me the food a couple times, but I had to spend a day with him and to see what was really taking place, because I didn't see it before. Jesus showed me. He had me to spend a day with my friend Samuel, and the day I spent with him, the full day I spent with my friend Samuel, I cleaned the car, the old car, with him, and I saw that containers for the food that he was bringing me were left in his car, and it was like under the seats, and all the car was really unclean. It's like it was really okay. I never seen anything worse than this. It was like I could tell that there was an unclean spirit. And he had his car really disgusting. Really disgusting. It was like I never seen anything worse than this. And I saw that the containers for the food that he was bringing me the food with, he didn't care that he put in his car, and it was like on the floor of his car under the seats, and all dusty, really disgusting. It was shocking to me. It was shocking to me, to the point that when I was going to eat another of the food I had from him, I just couldn't stop having this image of this disgusting, very disgusting way for my friend to not show any respect toward me, because he was bringing me the food in those containers, holding the food, but left under the seat of his car, all disgusting, really disgusting. And so from that point, I understood Jesus wanted me to see that, to be shocked so much that I would not rely on him anymore for this. I will not ask him anymore to bring me food, because I saw what was really the way that he was doing this. And I think he got an unclean spirit for it to be to that extent. So I told him just now that I don't want him to bring me back food anymore, and that I cannot trust him for that. And it's just the way that Jesus is shocking me so much that it will force me to find another way, a better way.
So do you see why I think Samuel is Moses? Because look how easy it is to just switch up names and places and be able to come up with a completely original story that has absolutely nothing to do with the truth of the matter that's before them. It's called storytelling, Jonathan. But you already know this.
Then I decided, okay, well, I guess that I got to suffer and eat it. And I don't want to.
And in this instance, when Jesus is describing what the true bread from the Father in heaven actually was, it just goes as, more proof that goes against Yahweh being the Father that Jesus spoke of. Because Jesus said that he was the true bread from heaven. And he specifically points this out, that it wasn't the so-called bread that the Lord had Moses give to his people. Because the Lord God, Yahweh, Jehovah, he isn't the Father. So let's go to where it's talking about Jesus as being the bread of life. And that's in John 6:31. But I'm going to start at 6:30 right here. So they asked him, "What sign then will you perform so that we may see it and believe you? What will you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, as it is written, He gave them bread from the heaven to eat." Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I tell you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven." So right here, we have a crowd asking what kind of sign that Jesus was going to give them so that they might believe him. And then they use an example in the Old Testament during the Exodus when it was Yahweh who sent the bread down from heaven to the wilderness for their fathers to eat. But this was from a physical necessity, not a spiritual one. And Jesus makes sure to point out and tell these people that what the Lord God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, what he did, there wasn't anything spiritual about it at all. It was because they ran out of food. And if he didn't come up with something, they would surely all die. So he came up with what nobody ever seen before, and he called it manna. Called it the food of angels. But were they the food of the fallen angels, Jonathan? Maybe. Because Jesus said that wasn't the true bread. Because he's the true bread. 1 Corinthians 10:1-3. I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that our forefathers were all under the cloud, and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food.
And I ate this again for dinner, and it really is making my groaning really loud from this difficulty to digest.
And this was only 45 days into it. They ran out of all the food. Now, this was maybe a 6-week trip, max, but the Lord God turned it into 40 years somehow.
30 years is about the time gap that they estimated would be long enough for people to forget.
The Torah says Yahweh would speak to Moses face to face the way a person speaks to a friend. Moses was Yahweh's friend. And throughout the Exodus, Moses is the one who keeps going back to Yahweh on behalf of the people, begging for provision, pleading for mercy. In Numbers 11:11 through 15, Moses breaks down under the weight of it. Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? I mean, Moses is really being punished by the people. They're blaming him for everything because he's the relay. Moses is the one going into the tent, sitting down, eating with Yahweh, getting the words from Yahweh to say to the people. The people aren't seeing Yahweh all the time. Yahweh's hiding in his tent. Moses is the mediator. He hears what Yahweh says. He relays that to the people. Who are the people going to blame? Moses. There are some people that want to make Moses out to be the bad guy. Really? Moses is the bad guy. Is that why he's at the Transfiguration signing off on the fulfillment of the law and the cross? Yeah. Is that why the kingdom retrieved his body when only Yahweh knew where it was? Jude verse 9. Yeah. Moses ain't the bad guy. Moses is just a human that was roped into this, roped into murdering, his own brother. When you record in a van, sometimes you get some outside noise. Oh, well, we'll roll with it. No worries. So in Numbers 11, Moses breaks down under the weight of it. Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, give us meat to eat. And look, you can blame these people all you like. I mean, keep blaming the victims. They didn't ask for this. Yahweh sent Moses to these people. Moses convinced them to leave because, hey, we're being rescued. We're getting out of here. We're going to a better place flowing with milk and honey. We can get out of this hot desert and be in beautiful green flowing pastures instead. This is what he's saying. And I don't know if they were had Google Maps back then, but it was a 6-day walk away for the average man. Let's say for a massive crowd of millions, 6 weeks? Is that totally sufficient to get everybody from one place to another? 6 weeks? Maybe that's why they were complaining after 6 weeks. They realized, like, hey, shouldn't we have been there by now? Yeah. Someone lied to them, right? So no wonder they're upset with Moses. Moses is the man knocking on the door. Yahweh is the friend who does not want to get up. In the Exodus, persistence was fatal. When the people complained, Yahweh sent fire. And when they kept asking for meat, it got worse. They kept asking. Yahweh's response was not provision, it was weaponized excess. Like if you've ever studied narcissism, it's a really unfortunate thing. Some people just are wired that way and there's nothing they can do about it. But you look at Yahweh promised them meat until it comes out of your nostrils and makes you sick. Then he sent quail in enormous quantities, and while the meat was still between their teeth, before they even chewed it, it's all in the text, he struck them with a plague. Persistence did not earn them provision. It got them killed. They were pleading for the basic necessities. They weren't asking for Russian caviar. They're saying, hey, could we please have some meat, some bread, some fish, like kind of basic necessities? Could we please? How dare you? And burns them with fire. You imagine being burned alive? What is Yahweh really even saying here? Shut up and die quietly, or you can die sooner?
Just wanted to share that Jesus wants us to see, and he's putting us in a situation where we can see. And if we don't want to see what he's showing us, then that's to our own peril, because I could get sick from this. I mean, he was telling me, well, it's just the exterior of the container holding the food. Well, I don't care, because especially that it's hot outside, in the car, under the seat, it's all disgusting. He's using his car like it's his, like if it would be, you can imagine, okay, it's the worst possible, the worst possible, most disgusting thing ever.
But try to help me make sense of this then, Jonathan. Because when I typed in, does the Father tempt, in the KJV, because I know you only really like the KJV, it says in the King James Version, KJV, the Bible does not teach that God the Father tempts humans to sin. The relevant passage is James 1:13 through 15. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust, and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Here the verse explicitly states that God cannot be tempted with evil, and does not tempt anyone. The temptation described is not from God, but from our own lusts and the enticement of the world. This teaching is consistent across most English translations, including the NIV, ESV, and NASB, which all convey the same meaning. God does not instigate sin. Instead, he allows us to face trials and temptations so we can grow in faith and character, but he does not lead us into sin.
Doesn't taste good. Looks like shit.
Key points. God's nature is holy and cannot be tempted by evil. James 1:13. Temptation comes from our own desires and the influence of the enemy. James 1:14. God's role is to provide grace, strength, and a way out of trials. 1 Corinthians 10:13. Not to cause them. In summary, according to the KJV and the rest of Scripture, the Father does not tempt. Temptation is a human and spiritual challenge, not a divine act. As it is written, Deuteronomy 8:3, He humbled you, and in your hunger He gave you manna to eat, which neither you nor your fathers had known, so that you might understand that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord.
Christians often defend this by saying the Hebrews were punished for grumbling, that they should have been more patient and trusted Yahweh more, like you would have, right? I mean, when you hear the zealots say things like this, oh yeah, well, if you were around before today, you could have fulfilled the law. Jesus would never have had to come. You could have just been with this group of people. You would have been perfect. You wouldn't have complained. No, you would have just, oh, I'm not hungry. I haven't eaten for 6 weeks, but I'm doing all right.
Would you eat this? This is what my friend Samuel brought to me before he decided to not speak with me anymore. Well, I don't want to eat that shit. And it seems that that's what I need. I had to go through. I had to eat that because that's what my friend Samuel brought to me. Then I decided, okay, well, I guess that I got to suffer and eat it. And I don't want to. Doesn't taste good. Looks like shit.
Yeah, you never would have complained. You never would have broken any of the 613 Torah laws. No, not you. You would have been perfect. Jesus never would have had to come if you were there in this group of people.
And I ate this again for dinner. And it really is making my groaning really loud from this difficulty to digest.
How dare they grumble and complain for being starved to death in an arid desert with no food and water? What kind of people are they? It's easy to satire because this is how Christians, a lot of Christians, treat these people. It's sick, and it's victim blaming. Christians often defend this by saying the Hebrews were punished for grumbling, that they should have been more patient and trusted Yahweh more. Trust Yahweh more? Yahweh had already broken their trust. But think about that for a moment. These people were starving in the desert. Maybe if their caretaker had actually taken care of them, nobody would have been complaining about dying of starvation. Huh, you think? And then Jesus tells this parable and says the exact opposite of what Yahweh did. Persistence in asking for food, being annoying about it, showing up at midnight and refusing to leave, gets you bread, not death. Bread. Under Yahweh's system, asking for food got people killed. Under Abba's system, asking gets bread. Which system does Jesus tell his disciples to operate in? In Jesus' story, persistence gets you bread. Not punishment, not plague, not fire, just bread. The same bread Yahweh never gave them. Abba gives bread freely. Just ask.
I'm telling you, okay, it was Jesus wanting me to see what my friend Samuel was doing with the container for the food that he was bringing to me, and that I would see that he was not even trying to keep them clean, and he was putting it under the seat, all disgusting stuff in his car. He's eating in his car. He might be fornicating in his car, I don't know, but he's putting the food having no protection whatsoever. And then Jesus wanted me to see this, to make me realize and to shock me, so I would not rely on him anymore.
Exodus 16 says, "You have brought us into this wilderness to kill us with starvation." They knew. This was Exodus 16 here. This is 6 weeks after they left Egypt. They know what's going on. 6 weeks into a 40-year journey.
30 years is about the time gap that they estimated would be long enough for people to forget.
People were working it out. Guess who was first to die? The people working it out.
I will have to rely on myself. Sometimes you need to be shocked a lot, really hard, to change something.
So in this chart, we see in the Exodus and then in Jesus' teaching. In the Exodus, they asked and they got anger and fire. In Jesus' teaching, they ask and it will be given to you. In the Exodus, they sought food, they got plague and death. In Jesus' teaching, seek and you will find. In the Exodus, they persisted and they were killed with food in their teeth. That's a horrible story. You know, we want meat. Okay, fine. Here's more meat than you could possibly ever eat. Oh, how generous. Let's cook that up and eat it. Dead. Some people believe Yahweh is Jesus. If you think this is Jesus' behavior, you have never met him. You might have met the made-up Jesus of Christianity, but you have not met the Jesus of the Gospels. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Yahweh being Jesus. Jesus doesn't kill people because they're hungry and say something about it. In the Exodus, they persisted in their asking, and they were killed with food in their teeth. Under Jesus, you knock, and the door will be opened. In the Exodus, the mixed multitude was blamed and excluded. Under Jesus, everyone who asks receives. If Jesus is building on the same system, why does he reverse every outcome that system produced?
Then I went to clean his car, and I figured out cleaning his car that the container that he was using to put the food in were very unclean. He had put it under the seat of his car. The car was really nasty, unclean, very, very making me sick to even watch it. And when I found out that he didn't care one bit, and he said, "Oh, no, don't worry, it's just the outside of it that is really dirty, don't worry." Well, I mean, that showed me how much you care. And then after that, I decided to tell him, "I'm not going to eat anything coming from you anymore. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust you."